Hello, I'm James Cridland, the radio futurologist, and every week or so I write a newsletter all about the future of the radio. It's called Radioland, and this is it for September the 28th, 2025. No more awards in Australia and no more radio in the UK Academy. First, though, I have a picture of an ad. It's an out-of-home ad for Nova in Brisbane. Photographed this morning, in fact, and it's a picture of three people. The headline is Ash, Lutzi and Nikki, and underneath it's written, "Don't think, just Nova." That's literally all that it says. There's no information about frequencies or DAB or anything else. And I say that Nova is a radio station. Not that you'd know from that. Ash, Lutzi and Nikki are, I think, the breakfast crew. And this type of advertising seems to only exist in Australia. This campaign is all the same as well. It's a picture of somebody, their name above it, and a slightly strange tagline. You might think this is another opaque ad campaign that assumes knowledge from the audience. What's Nova? Is it a streaming service? Is it a magazine? But then you realise that it's probably only aimed at those with rating diaries to fill, and literally to remind them of the name of the radio station that these personalities are on. And here's a fun fact. October the 28th, today, is the first day of a week out of survey. And I bet none of the people on this campaign will actually be on the air next week. In Australia, the ACRA Radio Awards, last held in 2024, will no longer return, according to the organisers Commercial Radio and Audio. Individual networks continue to celebrate the amazing work being done across our industries through their own recognition programs, suggests the CEO, Lizzie Young. Permanently cancelling the Radio Awards is quite a shock and does send a signal of a less showbiz, less relevant industry. Meanwhile, the Australian Podcast Awards isn't happening this year either. Pod News reporting it's shifting to 2026. And the ABC Local Radio Awards are long since mothballed. So is there any opportunity for audio to be recognised in the country anymore, accepting genre-specific awards like the Walkleys? The Radio Academy will, from next year, be known as the Audio Academy. As a former trustee, I was asked what I thought, and, I'm conflicted. It's the right move from the Academy, I think, which runs the ARIAs, the Audio and Radio Industry Awards, but it does seem another loss of the word radio rather than a redefinition of it. Now here's a quote from Mark Damazer, the former BBC Radio 4 controller, on the BBC's international audio offer. From Roger Bolton's Beeb Watch.
You feel really quite strongly they've been making it up as they go along, and they've had a lot of trouble communicating to these audiences outside the UK interested in BBC Audio what it is that they're actually doing.
Well, Mark Damazer suggests that the BBC's press office is currently suggesting that the music rights issue isn't the reason the BBC removed most radio stations from clear visibility for international listeners, and instead suggest it's just all about money, and he raises an eyebrow about that. Look, I know for certain that this is what has driven the concern about music licensing, is what has driven the removal of BBC radio stations. I've spoken to too many people within the BBC about this. Of course, it's also about earning money. And the fact is that the BBC's music stations, both live and on demand, would give the BBC more availability for advertising. Were they able to do that? But the music rights issue prohibits them from doing so. So I do wonder why the BBC's press office is telling a former trustee something different. BBC Audio isn't yet linking to the new BBC DAB Plus stations, BBC Radio 1 Dance, BBC Radio 1 Anthems and BBC Radio 3 Unwind. I've updated my guide on how to listen to BBC Radio overseas to add those links. They work just fine, by the way. They didn't, but they do now. Presumably now they're fully licensed broadcast radio stations. There's no reason to treat them any differently. I wonder how long it'll take for the BBC's official list to include them. And thanks to those who pointed out that some BBC local radio stations are on DAB+. Those radio stations are the first national services on DAB+. A company in the US is publishing 3,000 podcast episodes a week using AI. are not listening to almost any of them before putting them out there.
I'm releasing 3,000 episodes a week, and I have 8 people on my team. There's no way we're listening to the overwhelming majority of our content before it's released.
I interviewed Janine Wright, the company's CEO, for the Podcast Business Journal. Of course, radio could do that too. Let's hope it doesn't. In the US, a new law will mandate AM radio in cars, but only for the next 8 years. John Katsimatidis, the owner of WABC in New York, an AM radio station, calls the 8-year clause unnecessary, though his station's website notes that since the onset of FM and podcasts, an increasing number of younger consumers opt for content they hear through their phone. I would suggest, based on US listening trends, that AM radio's audience will have entirely vanished by 2034. Someone finds a software-defined radio dongle on the internet this week and does 50 different things with it, some quite fascinating things, some things that are less fascinating, lots of things that are not allowed in Germany. It's a good read. I linked to that today, and an interesting comparison between high-attention media and low-attention media. I've always considered speech-based radio as high-attention media, podcasts too, but the research appears to point to ad money shifting away from high-attention media and shifting toward social media and out of home. Now, I was in Canada last week and I'm now at home, hooray, where I spent the last 4 days mainly in bed, recovering from, as you can probably tell, a surprisingly bad cold. But that is all it was, say the tests. Anyway, I link to a full trip report if you like that sort of thing. That's linked from the show notes of this very podcast. It's the first time now where I've got no speaking engagements, save a pre-recorded one early next week, until March of next year. I really enjoy public speaking. I like the travel, though, rather less. I am, though, planning to be in the audience at some of South by Southwest Sydney, however, so looking forward to that. So where am I speaking next? Well, I'm on the Health Podcast Summit, October the 1st to the 2nd. Actually, you know what? As I read this out, I'm also forgetting that I'm also on a Italian podcast conference, which I will be doing live on the 30th of September. So there is always that. And then I'm speaking at Radio Days Europe in Riga in Latvia in March next year, which is very exciting. And thank you to lots of very excellent people, including Meliora and Soma FM and Radio.co for your kind support. If you'd like to support my work in any way, then you can buy me a coffee. You can become a member to give regularly, or just give a one-off coffee or 5. You can do that at buymeacoffee.com/James Cridland. I'm on the socials, on Blue Sky as @james.crid.land, or on Mastodon as @james@bne.social. Mastodon I'm rather more active on, but, I'm active on both of them. I've got a blue tick now on Blue Sky. Look at me. And my website has more detail about who I am and what I do and whether I can help you further. You'll find that at james.cridland.net. And until next time, keep listening.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.